Welcome to the Homeschool Store. My name is Amber,
I'm Karen.
and we are here to help you with your curriculum needs at our one and only store.
We're going to talk about a little something that you can add to whatever you're doing, to whatever curriculum you're using, that will enhance pretty much anything.
This is going to amp up your results.
So in today's video, we'll talk specifically about utilizing this simple and possibly underrated task of copying. This is going to squeeze a little more juice out of whatever your students are already doing. So one big caveat, I personally don't like to push very young children to have to write a lot. I don't think most of them are ready developmentally to hold a pencil. So this video is mainly for children ages 8 and up.
So what is copying?
So copying is where you're following a model. You are imitating a model. So the model is usually a sentence, an entire sentence, and it would have all the correct spelling, punctuation, capitalization. For our purposes, copying means that the student is physically writing with a pencil or pen on paper. This does not include text-to-speech, does not include keyboards and typing. It also does not include the whiteboard because it's a little bit too slick. The model sentence could be on a whiteboard or chalkboard, or it might be on a piece of paper right there at the student's desk. It might be even on the same paper that the student is going to write on. And if they're more advanced in this area, they could go straight and copy out of a book. Imitation stands in contrast to creativity because the student is not having to come up with the content. So in the process of learning to write, we know that writing is a skill that has many sub-skills. Such as handwriting and spelling, punctuation, capitalization, and grammar, and so on. So kind of like ballet or martial arts or piano, there are a huge set of fundamental skills that need to be mastered so that they can be executed with precision before they move on to the more advanced skills. And it's critical because those are foundational to what they will do next. And similarly with writing in general, you've got some fundamental skills to work on, so they do need to be mastered and executed with a high level of precision so that they can move on to more advanced things. And one way to work on those fundamental skills is copying or imitation. So the creativity won't be stifled by having a student copy, just as creativity isn't stifled when they're learning to memorize the piano notes or the foundational ballet steps. If, however, a student does not master the standard moves of composition and writing by imitating and memorizing what they're supposed to be doing, then it will be very difficult for them to later on do the more advanced moves of writing.
The most basic form of copying is tracing. Tracing is the easiest form of copying. It's especially useful when students need to work on building that muscle memory for forming the individual alphabet letters. Students can trace either cursive or in manuscript, also known as print. They can trace letters, words, or entire sentences.
The non-tracing type of copying, which is usually done after the student has developed the muscle memory for most or all of the individual alphabet letters, is done in the following manner. So they're going to start off, they're going to look at the model, and the model might be a little further away or it might be right there next to them on the table, and then they're going to memorize a little piece of it. And then they're going to take what they've remembered and write it down on their own paper. And then they're going to look back at the model and make sure, did I write it correctly? They're going to check, verify. Then they're going to look at the model again, take the next piece, memorize it, put it on their paper, and check again for errors. Then correct any errors as they go.
These steps will need to be repeated over and over in little chunks. With a model that's a word, you memorize and write a letter or two at a time. With a model that is a sentence, you write a word or two or maybe 3 at a time. Whether your copywork assignment is a word or a sentence, you keep checking that you copied each little piece correctly.
By the way, this methodology is very old school, going back to ancient times. And it was a time when only a privileged few would have been taught how to read and write.
So now that we've talked about what copying is, that it's the imitation of a good model, what kinds of things could be the model? What should the student be copying?
So that would be all sorts of things. This is what we call the content. So starting with the most fundamental, you've got the individual alphabet letters, both capital and lowercase, cursive, manuscript. Then you have words, where you're paying attention to the spelling of each word. Then we have sentences, where you're not only paying attention to the spelling of the words, but also the punctuation and capitalization. Paragraphs for more advanced students, and then maybe entire passages or entire poems if they're ready for it.
And they can copy across all subject areas. For example, math facts, math procedures, grammar rules, spelling rules, dictionary definitions of words, a sentence from a science book or history book, lists of terminology from science or history.
Copying is usually done with someone else's content, where you're imitating a good model.
But copying can also be the student's original content.
Using the child's original content might look something like this. So your child comes to you and tells you some fun fact about peregrine falcons, say, and you listen to it, you write it down, their sentence, on a piece of paper. When you write it down, it has all the correct spelling, capitalization, punctuation, and now your child copies that sentence onto their own paper with their own handwriting. So they actually did the content generation for it, and they are copying a model, but the model was their own original thought. But because you put it down on paper with the correct spelling, punctuation, and capitalization, they're not having to come up with that part at this point in time.
Yes. So the model was a child's own original sentence. On the other hand, here are some examples of copywork model that is somebody else's content.
So some examples of words could be the days of the week, months of the year, could be some interesting words that y'all are pulling out from a read aloud book. Might be some science terms, history words, anything that they're interested in. It could even be a list of words related to their hobby, or softball, for example. Maybe all the different positions, that's going to be their word list to copy. With sentences, it could be a famous quote, maybe a Bible verse, a sentence pulled out of a classic chapter book, lines from a poem, or a favorite line from a movie or a show. Passages might be 2 sentences, could be a whole paragraph, it could be longer than that, and then you could have an entire poem or parts of a poem as well. When copying someone else's work, make sure to cite the source with the title and the author. I like to put in the page number just for my own reference if I want to flip back and find that same quotation, because usually it's a favorite quote. And that's a way to give attribution and make sure you're not taking credit for somebody else's work.
So copying can be a special superpower for your child to get engaged and motivated to work on writing, because copying can be customized. Copying can be customized in at least 2 ways. 1, being according to the child's ability, and 2, according to your child's interests.
So you can scale the copying up or down according to your student's ability. About 3rd grade and up, most students are able to handle copying a short, simple sentence every day with basic words, not real complicated. And as they grow and increase in their ability, you would just extend it out and make longer passages with more difficult words in them. The copying doesn't need to be ultra challenging, because even with a more basic sentence, the students are learning as they go, especially when they're modeling quality sentences. Another way to customize according to ability is to take that one sentence that they're copying, and instead of copying it just one time, they're going to copy it multiple times, and that may help them memorize the content.
Another way to customize your students' copy work is according to your students' interests. Choose content that is based on what they are spending their free time doing, or something they want to learn more about. Assign sentences from a book or an online article, for example, pets or animals, or gardening and fishing, sports and professional athletes, or cooking, recipes, or a menu. Maybe makeup or skincare, musical artists or bands, Legos or Star Wars, Marvel characters, maybe some military aircraft, or a video game.
This might be the most powerful aspect of copywork, the ability to customize it according to a person's interests, whether that person's a child or an adult. This way, they are doing something they're interested in, writing about something they're interested in.
Here's another way that copywork is customizable. Your child can draw a picture to go along with it by using crayons or colored pencils or markers or gel pens or whatever you might have lying around. So now that the students have been copying some sentences on things that interest them, let's find a way to organize it.
So I like to use a 3-ring binder with page protectors. That way we can just add to it and we can rearrange the order if we like. Eventually we'll add dividers based on possibly subject areas like history or science, or even areas of interest such as Minecraft.
Other options include a spiral notebook, a blank journal, or a composition notebook.
When you're copying a sentence or a passage, you're hitting multiple subject areas with this one simple activity.
Handwriting, penmanship, punctuation, and capitalization.
Vocabulary, composition, and depending on what areas the content was pulled from, it could also be a little history or science, maybe math, foreign language, or other electives. By adding some of these simple copywork ideas to what you're already doing, you can amp up your curriculum, and over time your student will increase their skills in neatness, accuracy, and memorization. And at some point, they're going to be coming to you with their ideas of what they want to have as their copywork assignment.
Yes. So if you have any questions regarding copywork and how to implement copying into your homeschool, drop those in the comments below and we will be sure to answer those. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and joining us here at the Homeschool Store.
Bye.
Bye.